Hi everyone, welcome to Jackson and June. This is Sammy. Today we're going to be going over our two best wedding budget tools to help you not only set your budget, but to track your spending throughout your wedding planning process. Because we all know wedding budgets can be terribly scary and can be the worst part of planning your wedding, honestly. So, with these tools, we hope to release some stress and help you focus on the important things in engagement. So, let's dive in to our first document here, which is our wedding budget template. So, you'll use this to actually set your budget. Um, and I know that sometimes you're like, well, what is a good budget for an overall wedding or each vendor? I know when we started planning our wedding, it was like, well, how much are we supposed to pay for catering? What's outrageous? What's not? So, a good resource for you to use is on our blog post that goes along with this video. We have included the results for the Knott's 2017 Real Wedding Survey. So, what they did is they surveyed a bunch of different couples who had already gone through wedding planning and documented how much they spent overall and how much they spent per vendor on average, of course. So, this is a really good place to start to set your projected budget. So you can look at those averages and say, hey, this is an all right amount for a ceremony venue or an officiant or a caterer. So you know if a vendor gets back to you with a quote that's over the top outrageous, you know that that's not normal. So that's a really good place to start, is to look at those averages and set your projected budget. This will also help you know what vendors you might want to leave out. If you start adding things up and it seems over the top, you can go through and say, okay, well, do I need to rent table linens, or can I use the ones that the venue provides? So you can go through and kind of cut costs and cut vendors as you see fit. After you've set those projected budgets, go through and put in the actual costs of the vendors. After you have decided on the vendors, put those costs in to help you know what your actual budget is. Um, Again, this will help you know maybe where you need to cut costs or where you want to splurge on vendors, but it helps you keep track and to keep that cost in one place. Also input their payment due dates and their contact info for each vendor. And here is like where I like to put the breakdown of each of these costs. So most of these big purchases are going to involve a deposit and then maybe 2 or 3 other payments. So a good idea is to keep track of those due dates in the note section here. Then you have space down here to include any additional vendors and then your totals here. So like I said, this is a great place to start. Look at those national averages to help you set a realistic budget for you and your fiance or your parents or whoever is helping you pay for this wedding. Or if you're doing it by yourself, you go girl, that's awesome, but you're going to need this tracking tool even more. So from there, after you have set your budgets and looked at those averages, after the ball is rolling and you actually start making these payments to these vendors, it's a good idea to keep track of where every dollar goes. And that sounds tedious and awful, which it does take some time, but it's really helpful to know where your money is going, when it is going out, and to know if you need to rein in on your spending, or if you have a little bit left over that month, you can fit in small costs like buying your bridesmaids gifts or buying a gift for your mom or the mother of the groom. You can fit those in when you have extra and not wait until the last minute to where you have to pay $5,000 in extra costs the week before the wedding. To me, that sounds stressful. I don't know about you. It seems awful. So this will help prevent those stressful times and to know when you can afford something and when you can't. So the first thing you're going to do is go in and make your month tab. So it's nice to track this monthly so you know how you're doing in each month, and you can kind of spread the costs out over a few months over your engagement time so it's not all at once. So we're just starting with December because it is December, and then you'll go through and make a tab for each month. And the way that you do that is you just right click on the tab, hit move or copy, hit create a copy, and that takes everything from that tab and moves it over to a new one. So you'll have a duplicate here, which you can rename. We're going to call this one April. And then you move it to the right place. So, oh, that didn't go. So move it to the right place so you have everything in line here. Great, so after you have your months set, you go back to the one you're tracking, which is December. And then you're going to want to input your fixed monthly expenses. So these are going to be expenses that you have each month no matter what. Like on a regular basis, this is how we track our spending. So we go in and put in our fixed expenses, and obviously these are made up. Our rent is not $5, but you get the idea. You put in your fixed expenses like your rent and your car insurance, things that you have to pay. And then put in their due dates so you know exactly when they need to be taken out of your account, and or if they're auto drafted, you know exactly when that's going to happen so it's not unexpected. Then what you're going to do is go down here and input your monthly wedding expenses. So take that document that we first started working on and drop in all the vendors here, and then put in their monthly payments. So like I mentioned earlier, most of your big vendors are going to have multiple payments with multiple due dates. So we're just focusing on what's due this month. But put your total cost here just so you can keep it in mind and know, hey, I have X amounts due or X amounts more due in the coming months, just to give you an idea. But again, put in those due dates so you know exactly when those expenses need to be taken out, and total up each of your different categories for your monthly spending. Next, you want to go and drop in your paychecks. So put in each of your paychecks by date and do it for each. So like I said, if you're doing this with your fiance, you want to document both of your paychecks, or if you're paying for it by yourself, just put in your paychecks, or if your parents or grandparents are helping, you can document their contributions here as well. But just any sort of income, you need to document it by date so you know when it's coming in. After you have those paychecks documented by date, you want to go back over here and look at these due dates. So you want to designate each expense to a paycheck. So things are spread, you're not waiting until the end of the month to pay everything, or you're not having to pay it all at the beginning of the month, because that's just no fun to have to dump your money all at once. So this will help you spread out the love, spread out the spending, and make sure everything is paid on time. So like I said, go through and designate each expense by due date by paycheck. So after you divvy up those costs, you're going to want to, and kind of backtracking a little bit, you're going to input in each of these paycheck sections, you're going to put in your income. Like I said, this might be just a singular paycheck, or you and your fiance's paycheck, or your paycheck and a monthly contribution from your parents, whatever, however you're doing this. Just document any sort of income in this section here. What we also like to do is input the amount of money we currently have in our account when that income comes in. So you can say, hey, with this paycheck, this is the amount of money I have available to make these payments. So total that up there. And then you're going to go and put in your expenses by date, by due date, and document them as a subtraction. So as an example, we're just making this up. If a DJ payment was due right after you get this November 30th paycheck, you would put in DJ, and then to mark it as a subtraction, you just put a minus sign, and then let's just say it was minus 30 bucks. That's a cheap DJ, but anyway, making things up. So that documents it as a subtraction, and then I like to color code things, so make it red, and then mark it as a wedding expense. So then what you're going to do is after you've inputted all of your expenses that are due for this paycheck, you're going to add it up here. Go ahead and total it using this formula, which is awesome. So that way you can say, okay, I just got paid and now I have $555 in expenses for both fixed and wedding expenses. So then what you'll do is take this number of expenses and subtract it from what you have available in your accounts, including that income. So then what you'll do is you can document that down here. I usually just call it leftover. So your leftovers from that month, and then put your number here, and you can highlight it in green, and that way you'll know, hey, I'm really tight this month. I may not need to go out to eat this weekend, or you can say, I have a little bit of wiggle room. Let's go ahead and order our bridesmaids gifts. So yeah, that's about it for how you track your spending. And again, you want to do this process for each paycheck. And my advice is to update this document each time you make a payment. So even if your car insurance gets auto drafted, I would go in and mark that as paid. So if you paid your rent, you could mark it off, highlight it in green or whatever color to know, hey, that's taken care of. And yeah, just update it as much as possible, and it will hopefully relieve some stress and make you feel a little bit more confident when you are making these wedding purchases. And it will help you stay on budget and help you not overspend and have the wedding of your dreams. So if you have any questions for me, please feel free, send me an email. If you have my number, give me a call. I'm more than happy to help if you have any questions. And also if you have any issues with these documents, let me know. They are here to help you, and I hope they help. So happy wedding planning!